Hey guys, it's Zem from Shrike Gaming, and I'm doing a kind of a strategy slash tips on the new 2.0 World of Warplanes. Um, and more along the lines of it is helping out players that are having a hard time with this new mode, and they're not understanding, what is successful and what's not successful. Make sure you go read the patch notes if you don't get them or don't understand them, especially about how to take the objectives, air bases, garrisons, and all that stuff. Uh, what you need, how many points you need to take each one of those, whether they're white or red, and find out what each target is worth. That's the first thing you need to do is understand how that works. The point system on taking objectives, whether they're white or red. If they're white, they're 140 points, and if they're red, they're 160. And understanding what each individual plane or building means by point wise will help you capture that objective easier. Instead of focusing on a plane that's not worth like 20, maybe 40 points, or focusing on a plane that's worth 60. That could be a big difference right there, deciding whether or not you're going to capture that objective right away or not. So read the patch notes, go through them, kind of understand what I'm talking about with the objectives and the points needed to take the objective, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So I'm playing in the F4U4, the Tier 7 multi-role, and you don't see me in this. I actually didn't have it on for some reason. I don't know why I took them off. I think I was deciding between bombs and rockets. But if you're playing a multi-role, a heavy fighter, anything that can mount ordnance other than their cannons, bombs, rockets, make sure you mount them. And I've noticed because that little extra, until they get this whole physics thing figured out with this game, carrying that extra ordnance is going to help you. If you don't need it, especially like the bombs or whatever, you can just drop them, get them out of the way or whatever. But if you're taking one of the objectives at the airbase, and you knock all the planes down, and you still haven't got the airbase, but you got now you got to knock some ground targets out. It helps that you have some bombs or rockets with you. Just a suggestion. It seems to work a little better. So the initial, I'm going to break this game down into early game, mid game, late game. Early game is going to be the objective rush, and that's where you're going to leave spawn. Make sure when you leave spawn that you're typing to your teammates and pinging the map. One, you might get the human players to actually pay attention and understand what's going on, and maybe they'll follow you, telling you where you're gonna go. Hopefully, they're gonna go with you. And two, whether or not the bots listen or not, just simply by pinging a map, maybe they'll listen, maybe they'll go there. I don't know. I haven't quite figured out how the bots are actually operating. So make sure you're communicating, talking to your teammates, and pinging the map. And as far as I can tell, the two big ones, in my opinion, at least objective wise, is the air base and the military base. Grabbing either one of those two. Typically, I prefer to go with the air base, especially if it has a wrench or one that'll actually call up the bombers. I think the command center. But typically, I go with air base, military base. I'm not terribly worried usually about the command center unless it becomes a problem with later on in the game. But yeah, the air base and definitely military base. Military base launches missiles at the enemy bases. Missiles can't be stopped, so they do a significant amount of damage. So you want to try to grab one of them. The air base, in my opinion, is the first one to get, and typically it works out pretty well if you can hold an air base for a while. So starting out, you're going to see me start. I check my tab, or I tab out, check the objectives, see who's on my team, and I started typing immediately. Hey, you know what? Airstrip, airbase, whatever. That's where we're going to go. So, like I said, make sure you're always tabbing out to see your team, see who's left, see who's alive, and how the objectives are laid out. Is going to sometimes make a big difference. If you got an objective that's far away or close to where your spawn cap is, play off of that if you think that's an important in the late game at least. So early game, the objective rush. You want to get at least in my opinion, 2 objectives. Right, and this is going to be on the spread of what your airplanes are going to do. We're going to head to the airbase objective with the wrench, and I've noticed, make sure you are climbing to altitude at least 5 to 7,000 feet. Why? Because when you get out of the objective, you're going to find that these defense airplanes are not always low altitude. There's going to be some heavy fighters up high. If everybody comes in low altitude and they deal with the bottom planes, they still have to climb to altitude to catch, maybe to get some more points off of those high altitude fighters. So it's better to start up high and then work your way back down to the bottom as you take out these air defense aircraft. So jump on them as quick as possible. This has kind of become a speed game, right? So maybe a little focus fire if you get in fighting with another aircraft. Start focusing out these guys as fast as you can. The longer you loiter over these bases, it's the quicker and easier for the enemy pilots to take objectives either from you or just in general. I'm not going to go over specific types of aircrafts in this little tutorial here. I'm just going to go over just general play. I have some thoughts on actually the job of specific airplanes types in the game, but I'm not going to go through that now. So we jumped on this one. We're just knocking out the last few aircraft here before it's locked. It's locked. All right, it's locked in 27 seconds before we start gaining whatever. So moving to our second objective, and it is going to be contested. We've already started turning blue, but here is my opinion on this part of the game, specifically when it comes to so the early game is still going on here. You're still getting the capping of these objectives. The other part of this early game is breaking enemy squadrons. What I'm specifically talking about is you'll see that I have a large group behind me and a little subgroup off to this side that's also capping. But you'll see that the enemy's team, red team, is moving in as well. Now this this block right here, what you want to do is break this. And what I'm talking about is you want to obviously shoot them down, and what that's going to do is respawn them back at their spawn point. And if they're bots, if you can stagger them out, they're going to come in late, they're going to come in 1s and 2s, or they're not even going to come back, they might go off to a different tangent. Same with the human players. So if you can break this block early game, because if you don't, this block will most likely stay together and they'll just rampage their way through one after another these points, these objective points. So if you can break this block as soon as possible and break it up and get them to start spawning at different times, it makes a huge difference in the game. If you don't break this block and your block gets broke, it's hard to win the game because you don't have this firepower all massed up in one chunk. Typically, if I'm going to try to break this block, I want to break it over a contested area. Why? Because if this is a contested area, there's still self-defense fighters here. So these red enemy players are going to be fighting the self-defense fighters, and you're going to come swooping in. You're going to get on their tails. It's going to be a lot easier to fight them over here than it is out in the open. So the AA is still pummeling them. Self-defense fighters are fighting them. If you don't have this option, and you get 2 points, stick around, loiter in between the 2 points, and see if one of these blocks will come after your base that's blue, your objective that's blue. That works even just about as well, because once you get them over the blue, now you have your self-defense fighters and you have your anti-aircraft, and you want to break that block up. You want to make sure you start separating these guys so they're spawning at different times and coming in, and hopefully you get some of the, like I said, some of the bots will fly off in different directions, and you won't get this big blotch. You try to break it down so there's 2, maybe 3 fighters in a bunch, and you work it. So coming in here, so there's still self-defense fighters up, and we are moving in on top of them here. We got a couple aircraft here, but I also got a pretty good force behind me. So I ignore any of the white aircraft that are still up, and I'm after as many of these fighters as I can get. Even if you don't take these guys out and they take the objective out and this turns red, that's fine. But like I said, you want to break this block. It's a lot easier to deal with self-defense fighters than they are the enemy fighters. So you jump on them, start sending them back to garage, start sending them back to respawn. Because the longer they're in respawn and out of this area, you know, the better. So we're breaking them up. You notice we are actually breaking them slowly but surely. We're knocking this block of aircraft into pieces, and it's amazing the difference it makes once these aircraft are respawned and coming in one at a time instead of a huge block. So we take the spawn, still breaking the block, still killing them one at a time. So now we've broken the block. That leaves 2 aircraft roughly here. We've got a 302, which is a human pilot, and another airplane over here. So early game, it's done. Now we have the mid game. This is important, and mid game really comes down to is keeping the caps as much as possible. Trying to keep these caps rolling. You want to build the supremacy points, and the only way to do that is keeping these caps clean. I tend to like to either so we have a chance here with 3, having a tendency to loiter here in the center one, where I can react to 2 of these, at any given time. If you get a chance and you say take this one's pretty well protected, you don't have to. And I tend to look at the number of aircraft. So for example, this one that's down here that's full health. You'll notice these rings right here, right around the top of these, and this will tell you how damaged that base is. So these are full health bases that you occupy, and then as you watch, you'll see they start knocking down planes or buildings. This will get less and less and less. So these full health ones, I have a tendency, if there's only say 2 aircraft there or 3 aircraft there, I don't really worry about them so much. The self-defense fighters should be able to hold that, unless it's a GA. Ground attack airplanes are a pain in the ass right now with this mode. You see a ground attack airplane anytime, whether it's over your blue ones or out in the open, jump their ass. Ground attack planes at this point, especially getting into the higher tiers, can almost take one of these objectives by themselves. They have enough HP and they have enough weapons to really do a number on things. So you want to be watching the GAs as much as possible, constantly tabbing out, looking for that little triangle that's moving around real slowly to your objectives. So that said, like I said, watch for those GAs as much as possible. They're a real nuisance. So we've taken that cap. Now this cap over here is contested. It's halved roughly, and that means they're still fighting over it. We've broke that block, so we're not going to get a whole bunch of these fighters over here. So they're still working on the self-defense fighters. So we're going to jump on these guys and start knocking out planes as much as possible. This is one of those deals where we should have probably held up a little bit, but it's so close to our actual our cap here that it's pretty hard not to jump on here and try to take out some of these guys and break this block. It seems like there's a never-ending amount of these guys. Like I said, breaking these blocks up, not allowing them to get grouped up and get them into 1s and 2s and singles is always excellent. So down on the Yak M1, and we're working this cap over, trying once again to keep these guys broke up. They've actually taken the cap, and it's making it interesting. Now you actually watched in this last little piece here what I was talking about. Just that single GA that got down to the bottom cap down here almost took it out. A single GA almost was able to take it out. That's how powerful they are for taking caps. So we're breaking the blocks, trying to keep these guys broke up, still trying to stay, like I said, we're up 9 right now. We have 3 of them capped. 2 of them are kind of not in real good shape, half health. You always have to be paying attention to those. Obviously you'll see them starting to get overrun. You want to get some fighters over that. This is all about that deal about tabbing out and keeping track of where your friendly guys are and the enemy is, and paying attention to that kind of stuff. So trying to break these guys down as much as possible. Staying in here on this guy. And there is actually still a GA on the bottom. So, you know, you've seen 3 of their guys run off, 3 bots run off. So the numbers have kind of evened up here, at least for me. And I am working these guys as fast as I can. I'm pretty much just ignoring the ground attack planes, because at the same time, if you saw earlier, you would have saw the squall line that is becoming prevalent right now. And this is a little trick for you guys to understand. When that said the 2-minute warning for the squall line, once the squall line comes up, you can't respawn. All right, and the respawn, if you can't respawn, then you're out of the game. So you have 2 minutes before the squall line comes up. If you die with 2 seconds before the squall line shows up, you'll still respawn. So I've done this a number of times. If I am low health and the squall line is coming, you either YOLO into the red team, you YOLO into their base, or you crash. You want to be dead before the squall line shows up. If you're low health, I'm talking about less than obviously half, or you know, as little as possible, or low as possible HP. You want to be dying, whether it's to enemy fighters, you know, natural causes, whatever. You want to be dead before that squall line hits. Once you're dead, you're going to respawn one more time. And this is the late game stuff coming in here, because once that squall line hits and you're able to respawn, anything killed after that is dead and it can't be respawned. So you see me here running around over the red here. I'm trying to take out as much as I can, as much damage as I can do before I die. So when I do respawn, I'm going to be respawning before the squall line, and of course you can hear the squall lines coming. Right. So now I'm respawning back into the game as soon as the squall line is up 30 seconds left. So I'm in the game, but I'm at full health now. So 25 seconds. Check my tab. Check where our bases are holding. You know, obviously we're putting up 9 right now, and I have them coming in on my center base here. There's still a GA down on the bottom. The enemies the defense are doing a good job of keeping him dead. So now I'm worried about my center here. Like I said, I'm looking around. They've almost got the center knocked down. See how this thing is turning right here? These are the guys I'm coming. Squall line's up. That means, like I said, late game. Now the airplanes you're knocking out are not going to respawn. And you're in a really good position here because you're full health. And everything you take out is now going back to garage and not going to come back. So, at this point, we are down currently at 2 objectives. Now we're back up at 3. They're down, they have 2. The objective I'm over right now is theirs, but I'm working on it. Like I said, this game is all about knocking these guys out at this late point with the squall line up and running. You want to knock these guys out. They can't come back. They can't come back. They can't fight. And it's a whole lot easier to win this match. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm trying to knock out as many enemy pilots, not air defense planes, but enemy pilots, so I can send them back to base. They're not playing. That means they're not winning. That means we have the advantage because of the airplane count. Still relatively full health. Still trying to get this 302. I haven't decided about this zoom in thing yet, so I still play out quite far. I'm ignoring as many of these self-defense aircraft as I can, but some of them just need to die. At this point, you know, there's a good chance I have a bunch of blue players here with me, so there's a chance that we're going to be able to retake this Cappy in once we knock out the self-defense. There's only actually 1 enemy pilot in this zone right now over this cap. We have the superiority points by a bunch right now, so it's more just kind of cleaning up. But everything I'm talking about, you know, these little things make a difference. for the play for winning the game. And I've tried so many different things, just trying to try different things. I suffered at the beginning. I didn't really like the mode. I had a hard time winning. I started like 40% for a while, and I was like, this is crazy. So then I started trying all kinds of different things, uh, trying to figure out how to best play the mode. And I think I've kind of worked some of these things out. If you guys have any suggestions, put them down in the comments below. You know, if you found something that actually works real well, let me know. And maybe I'll try it. I'll just give it a try and see if I can make it work. So right now we're simply just finishing off these air defense fighters and trying to regain the objective. Uh, in these kind of situations, they're on your friendly pilots. You want to make sure you're always clearing tails. These bots, if you get on them, shooting them, they'll have a tendency to turn away, and that's what you want to do. He was right on the tail of my friendly heavy. By jumping on him, I was able to knock him out. So back up, finishing these guys off, and we're gonna see what we can do here. Game's pretty much over with, but that's stalling out. I love this stall on this new version of the game. But so far, that's my thoughts about this game mode. How to succeed and at least try to get a decent win rate out of it. This is all about the counting. You don't want to go into an area if there's just one or two of you. You don't want to go area where there's a bunch of red ones. Don't try to pick objective points by yourself. You're just going to lose a bunch of HP and you're probably going to die. Same way with dealing with these blocks of aircraft. I see a big block of red aircraft. I turn around and leave. I try to find something else to do. You're just going to die. You always have to remember those things. You have to remember that there is, it's still all about numbers. I don't care how good a pilot you are. It's all about numbers. And keeping the numbers is a big thing about winning. So if you say you get in with a flight of people, you get in with your other human pilots, and you guys all kind of stick together, of course it's going to definitely increase your chance of winning the game by staying together. And this is all I'm talking about, the communication part, flighting. I've been playing almost entirely, I've played every game I played entirely solo. I've been trying to figure this out, and obviously with your flights you're going to have a better chance if you're playing with another human pilot. If you can't, picking it up with the guys that are playing the game with you, great. But working together, the teamwork involved makes it a lot easier to do that. So teamwork, see if you can flight, that kind of stuff. It's all something to remember when you're playing this. So I'm going to be coming out with a few more of these guides, maybe and some thoughts about the different types and how they work too. So you guys have a good day, and I'll be talking to you later.